Fall in love with 252 exclusive offers on the Citroën range at Hugo Luna Motors today. Explore our impressive collection of Citroën cars and vans, where advanced comfort, style, safety and reliability all come together. Order your 252 today and take advantage of low-rate finance, a €500 deposit contribution and avail of a free home charger. Book your test drive today at hugolunamotors.ie. Citroën, for everyone, like no one.
Citroën. It's time for Taking Care of Business on Midlands 103. With thanks to the local enterprise offices of Laois, Offaly and Westmeath. Find us on localenterprise.ie and let's talk business.
Hello and good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Taking Care of Business. I'm Ronan Berry, and coming up over the next hour we're going to find out how the mandatory pension automatic enrolment scheme will reshape the cost base for Irish businesses. We're going to look at a survey by FRS Co-op that suggests quite a few businesses believe that it will affect their profits once it kicks in from early January. Colin Donnery of FRS will join me in a little while to discuss the results of their survey, and we'll hear from a local business owner who's involved in a networking group, and they're hosting an information day on that coming up very shortly. That's coming up for you in a little while on the show. Also, we're going to hear of a remarkable story of a well-known local businessman, and it starts with growing up on an island on Lough Ree to then running one of the Midlands' most successful hardware businesses. I give you a hint, he recently picked up a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Athlone Chamber of Commerce Awards about 2 weeks ago as well. So later on you're going to hear how soldiers doing DIY helped spark his first store, and how his name has become synonymous with retail, with business and hardware right across the Midlands region. It's a brilliant story of vision, a bit of good old-fashioned hard graft, but somebody also who's deeply, deeply rooted in their community. So really looking forward to bringing you that very, very shortly. But before that, it's hard to believe it, but this day, 4 weeks is, you know what, yes, it's Christmas Day. Today is the 25th of November, so 4 weeks. So any lads listen there, you've about 3.5 weeks left before you start shopping. But yes, Christmas is really everywhere already. We'll be playing our first Christmas song on Midlands 103 next Monday, the 1st of December. But the Christmas lights are being switched on towns and villages right across the Midlands, and a few more coming later this week and over the weekend too, trying to build up that excitement, get people moving, get people shopping. Well, one place where there's a lot of things happening in the run-up to Christmas is in County Laois. So I'm delighted to be joined this evening by the CEO of Laois Chamber Alliance, Jackie Carroll, because they've had a busy time of it again recently, or just last month. They would have held their AGM, they've welcomed a new chairperson, they've outlined loads of events for 2026 and celebrating what the growth of many networking events that they've been having over the past year. So lots of exciting stuff coming next year, but also in the run-up to Christmas. And it all kicks off this coming Thursday the 27th in Portlaoise with the President's Day lunch. Very good evening, Jackie.
Hi Ronan, how are you this evening?
Jackie, tell us about this lunch that you have planned for this Thursday.
Yeah, so on Thursday we have a fireside chat with Pat McDonagh, well known in these parts for Supermax success and obviously the Soho Hotel Group in the collection in Portlaoise. And we've asked him to talk about the challenges he's had in business rather than the successes, just so people can see, God, lots of people have challenges and this is how we overcome them. But can I just say, Ronan, that morning before the President's lunch, was unfortunate scheduling from our point of view, but we have a breakfast briefing here in the office at 8:30 on Thursday morning with Laois Domestic Abuse Service, and it's a learning about domestic abuse as a workplace issue, what employers' obligations are, what the employees who are affected by this terrible thing, how they can come forward, and what an employer needs to do. And it's just, the President's lunch has gotten a lot of coverage and we're almost sold out. So I just said, I take this opportunity to give a shout out for Laois Domestic Abuse and the training in the workplaces that they're doing at the moment.
Absolutely.
I hope that's okay.
No, it's perfect. Absolutely, because it's such an important subject and one that can't be overlooked. And again, it really just showcases how busy you are across the county, and particularly in Laois Chamber Alliance too. The lunch is almost sold out. There's still tickets available there. People can go on to Eventbrite if they just Google it. Why should people go? What else are they going to learn, as well as the challenges? Because there's no better man to overcome challenges than Mr. McDonagh.
Yeah, actually the tickets are through our website, or we'll send you an invoice. But really, our new president, Dr. Michelle Byrne, will be setting out her stall for 2026, which I think is very, it's different. She's a doctor, so she has, but a very strategic view of how the chamber is going to go in 2026. And if anybody knows Christine Byrne in Kinnity, well, Dr. Michelle is a niece of Christine. So we have good stock coming in as the president. And actually, we had our first board meeting today with the new board. So that was great. And then at the president's lunch, it's 2 hours. It's 12:30 to 2:30. It's a networking opportunity. There are over 69 businesses going to be there. And it's a full Christmas lunch. So it's an opportunity for people to bring their team, have a Christmas lunch, listen to somebody who's been there, and actually meet and celebrate the year we've had. You know, Laois has had an incredible wins this year. I'm not a GA person, so I'm not even going to put a pun in there about that. But, you know, it's time to reflect and look back on what we are doing right in the county. And then on the 4th of December, we have a workshop with Iridium HR. Sinead Graham, she's a local HR company here, and she's going to go through the key employment matters of what to look for, what happened in 2025 and what's coming at you in 2026. So that'll be good. And then we have a Christmas social, free for members in the beautiful Roundwood House with hot wine and mince pies. So that should be lovely. And then the office closes on the 19th. So I'll be looking forward to a rest.
We'll allow you that anyway. What's it like out there across the county at the minute? Are people, are retailers, are businesses seeing a bit of a boost? Are they getting ready for Black Friday? Are they confident for the season ahead?
Yeah, I don't want to be Maudie Mary here, or however you call it, but things are tough out there. You know, there are a lot of people who are the general manager, the marketing, the finance, the HR, all rolled into one person, all to try keeping their business going, keeping their employees going, keeping a family. It's not easy, and most of our members in Laois Chamber would be SMEs, and they're finding it tough. And I know you have a piece coming up on My Future Fund, but that's an extra cost on employers. And I know it's for people who don't have a pension, which is a fantastic way of saving. But, the portal opens next week and no one knows anything about it. So I'm hoping Colin from FRS will have some guidance for us on what we need to do as employers.
Absolutely, yeah. They've done a survey of many businesses across the Midlands and a bit further afield, and some of the results are quite staggering by it. And I think actually it does indicate what you just said. There's a lot of uncertainty out there because it was pushed down the tracks for so long, and now it's coming in, and people have not a huge amount of time to deal with it anyway. But anyway, you've plenty on your plate there as well. Anything else we should be looking out for in the run up to the Christmas season across Laois?
I think it's always the message: support local. For every £1 you spend locally, I think it's $4.50 that comes back into the local economy. The Laois gift card is available. Under the employee benefits scheme, you can now gift an employer up to $1,500 tax-free over 5 periods. So Christmas is a perfect time to come. And if you want, you can come into the office, collect the cards from us, and you register them yourself. They're available also. You can buy things in shops all over the county with them. And there's an updated list on the website of that.
They really are almost a perfect way of giving somebody a bonus, because it keeps the money local. It's tax free too, and it really is ideal. And similar schemes operating in towns right across the Midlands. Jackie, you've a busy time ahead of you. I'm going to let you go, and I'll talk to you again shortly. But all the very best with the President's Day lunch on Thursday, and looking forward to learning more from Pat McDonagh on the day.
All right. Thanks, Ronan.
Thanks a million, Jackie. There. That's Jackie Carroll there, the CEO of Laois Chamber Alliance. Well, speaking of that My Future Fund, their auto-enrolment as we call it, I'm going to speak to Colin Donnery from FRS Cope about their survey on that after this quick break.
Taking care of business with thanks to the local enterprise offices of Laois, Offaly and Westmeath. Find us on localenterprise.ie and let's talk business.
Still to come this evening, we'll meet the legendary businessman who picked up a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Athlone Chamber of Commerce Business Awards recently. It's a fascinating story and one that is far from finished, but it begins in a really, really interesting place. So that's coming up very, very shortly. But before the break there, Jackie from Laois Chamber was just mentioning the My Future Fund, or the auto-enrolment pension scheme as we know it better, and it's coming in from the 1st of January, and it has spooked a lot of employers. And actually an awful lot of employees who have a lot of questions about it too. So it applies to anybody who doesn't have a pension or who's not making contributions to a pension at the minute. And it's designed to automatically enrol eligible employees aged between 23 and 60 earning €20,000 or more and who are not already in a workplace pension. And it automatically enrolls them into a retirement savings scheme. Now, it's separate from the state pension, but there is an employee and an employer contribution, and then the state adds a top-up. So it's going to begin at 1.5% each for the employee and employer with a state top-up, but it will increase over time up to 6% each for the employer and the employee. And whilst at large many people welcome the concept of the scheme, it has been kicked down the road numerous times, but it is now coming in from the 1st of January. So to try and get a sense of the impact it might have on businesses and get a sense of the sentiment that's out there as well, FRS Co-op have recently conducted a survey of a range of businesses to kind of gauge their feelings. And one of the standout things was that around 75% of the employers surveyed expect the new scheme's cost to reduce their profitability in 2026. So not insignificant as well. Let's try and find out more about the survey. I'm delighted to be joined by the Group CEO of FRS Co-op, Colin Donnery. Good evening, Colin.
Evening, Will.
Colin, just maybe take us through the overview of the survey about the number of businesses surveyed and some of those key standards, I suppose, that one being that 75% expected to reduce their profitability next year.
Yeah, we had between employees and employers about 500 in total, significant amount in the Midlands. And I suppose, look, it came back really loud and clear that a couple of things. It's going to cost businesses a lot, in an average of about €25,000 for a mid-sized business that came back to us. Quite a bit of confusion, both on the employer side and on the employee side. So what's going to happen just technically is the Department of Social Protection are going to basically scoop up anyone who's not in a corporate pension scheme in the first week of December. And if your employee isn't in that, they'll be automatically dropped into the My Future Fund scheme in January. So what's actually happening on the ground at the moment, we I suppose anecdotally companies are coming back to us and saying they're putting people into their corporate schemes. However, one of the things that that will happen, if they're not in the scheme in the November payroll, in the corporate scheme, they will automatically go in January into the My Future Fund, and will also obviously be in the corporate scheme. So the government have a little bit of thinking to do on how they're going to give that money back to both the employer and the employees. So.
One thing that also stood out to me was the average estimated cost to a business in the first year, and the average estimated cost is about 25,000, ranging from companies from 5 to about 100,000. So again, significant cost to absorb on the bottom line. Yeah,
and I think we're going to see. So if you think about it, like, look, in a lot of multinational organisations, they will have corporate pension schemes, the usual 5+5, contribution from employer and employee, etc., and going up for tenured employees. But there's quite a lot of, I suppose, employees that opt out, right? So of those schemes. So obviously the employer is a challenge with that. If you look at the number, I think it's a really interesting thing here, and the government probably haven't factored this in thinking, and they definitely weren't thinking about the employers. Only 28% of people aged 20 to 30 are in a corporate pension scheme. So basically what's happening is the government have decided, instead of going with 30 to 60-year-olds, they're going with 20. So ultimately the employers are going to pick up the tab for that. Now, obviously, as you might remember, Ronan, when you were in your 20s, you weren't that interested in pensions. You wanted cash in your back pocket. So, employers also have been left to explain this to employees in January, when I suppose when the payment is taken out of their net pay. And on average, you're looking at 10, 15, 20 euros a week that's going to be taken out of the employees' pay. So I think we're going to see a lot of pushback from employees looking for answers, etc. So it's probably, and not probably, look, it's important that employers get out in December and explain, and in January and explain what's coming.
Yeah, because it's one of those ones that people know the long-term benefits are there. I mean, we need these people to pay your pension and mine. Now, yours will be considerably larger than mine anyway, but to be able to pay all these pensions and support the country as more and more people live longer and more people come on to the, retire too. So we need to support that. Yeah. Is it type something that, like, the people in their 20s, that once it's in place for a year or two, they just won't even notice because it's just the norm for them coming in? Could it be maybe people a little bit older who really might be more resistant to this?
Yeah, definitely. I think, someone who hasn't been paying into a pension and is in their 40s or 50s, and, I think, as you mentioned, it's a great thing to get as many people as we can into pensions for their own sake and obviously for the country's sake. But they will see, a significant sort of, amount coming out of their pay. And I think the sectors really, they're probably going to be most affected, where traditionally there isn't a really high instance of corporate pensions: retail, transport and logistics, hospitality and food service. And a lot of those organisations in January are also they're going to have a sort of a double whammy. So they're going to get hit with an increase in the minimum wage again. And I just think if you look at the costs of all these sort of auto enrolment, sick days, minimum wage, etc. The government, particularly in the last sort of 5 or 6 years, is really pushing costs onto employers and expecting employers to pick up the tab for all this.
For an organisation like FRS Co-op, and you've many different divisions and different entities in it, how have you prepared for auto enrolment? Like, are you ready as we now come to the end of November?
I think. In fairness to our group chief executive, our group financial controller in Offaly there, Siobhan Dooley, has been in a massive amount of work on this. Very difficult. We've over 2,000 employees across many divisions and that type of thing. And it is, it's when you have a very sort of, I suppose, disparate type of business as we have in 7 different divisions, it's a bit of a challenge. But yeah, we're ready. We did a webinar last Friday with staff, and feedback was good. But I think it's a bit like anything, until it actually hits in January, people are probably going to not understand what's coming, and it's only then you get all the questions.
It's hard to know what the best time of year to actually do something like this is, but look, at January 2026 is the date we've been given. I think this is definitely happening. But Colin, thank you so much for that. A really comprehensive survey and a very insightful piece of work on that. Thank you for that this evening. That's Colin Donnery, the Group CEO of FRS Co-op. I mentioned that there is an event taking place on November the 26th, which is tomorrow evening actually, and it's been run by B&I Bloom. It's a chapter of the Business Networking International based in Portlaoise. Breda Colgan, a well-known local business person here from Salutum Advisory and Training, joins me now. Good evening, Breda.
Good evening, Ronan. Thanks for having me on.
Breda, you're trying to demystify the whole auto-enrolment thing. So you've an information even coming up, and it's open to anybody. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Absolutely. It's open to anybody to attend, whether they know us or they don't, or have been members of BNI. It's open to any business to come into us tomorrow evening in the Midlands Park from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And we have a QFA, Paul Waters from Digital Financial Services in Portarlington, and he's teaming up with Maura Hurley of Maura Hurley HR from Kildare. And I suppose they really tick all the boxes when you have the two of them, because how we manage it in HR within the business, in running your payroll and whatever else. And obviously at this stage, as Colin alluded to, we've almost passed the deadline to have people signed up to a pension plan. So what we can do in the coming months then to continue and set up our own pension arrangements within businesses and exit them back out of the government scheme, or how that would happen and what needs to be done and in what timeline and all of that.
And even as Colin suggested there, even having the knowledge to be able to answer all those questions that might come from the employee, because nationally they reckon there's at least 800,000 people will be enrolled into a scheme from the 1st of January.
Oh yeah, at least, yeah. And I suppose no more than myself, I have to hold my hand up and say, yeah, knew it was coming down the line. Know it's been pushed back a couple of times. Do I know enough about it? Absolutely not. Are we ready for it? No, we're not. And then the staff turn and ask you, and they have way more questions. So we're all scratching our heads, which is why I suppose we'd asked Paul and Maura that many questions. They were like, here, come on, because this was a continual thing every week, a couple of more questions and back and forth. So this is really where the information session has come out of, because if we have questions, everyone else has questions. That's the bottom line.
So it's tomorrow.
The two heads together can answer a lot of them.
Absolutely. You know? Tomorrow evening from 6:30 p.m. in the Midlands Park Hotel, Portlaoise, if I'm right on that. How can people sign up and get signed up to go to that? Well,
at this stage, just turn up. Simple as that. There is an Eventbrite link there they can register on by all means. If they go into Eventbrite and search it, it'll pop up. But, if you're not that handy with your way around Eventbrite right now, just turn up tomorrow evening.
There you go. 6:30 tomorrow evening at the Midlands Park Hotel, Portlaoise, and hopefully start to get some of those questions answered, or at least have yourself forearmed for the questions that might start coming over Christmas and into January. Breda Colin, thank you so much for that this evening. Now, so there you go. Do we know more about the auto-enrolment scheme yet? Well, we're going to find out a lot more very, very soon, aren't we, in the next couple of weeks. So, yep, it's coming in. And as Colin says there, actually, if you haven't got somebody put into a corporate pension by the end of November, they will automatically be enrolled in January, and they'll have to be de-enrolled afterwards. So plenty there of head scratching to be done, I'd say, between now and the new year. But thanks to Colin and Breda for their input. Now, time for a quick break. After that, we're going to change the focus a little bit, and we're going to hear the story of a well-known Midlands business person. He recently picked up the Athlone Chamber of Commerce Lifetime Achievement Awards. I can't wait to bring you this story.
Introducing the all-new 252 electric range at Hugo Luna Motors. See our Peugeot E2008, now available in electric. This bold SUV boasts a striking design with sleek LED headlamps and a redesigned grille for a powerful presence. With zero CO2 emissions and 156 HP of power, the E2008 delivers efficiency and performance. Discover more at hugolunamotors.ie. Drive the future today.
Taking care of business with thanks to the local enterprise offices of Laois, Offaly and Westmeath. Find us on localenterprise.ie and let's talk business.
I had the pleasure of attending the Athlone Chamber of Commerce Business Awards about 2 weeks ago in the Hudson Bay Hotel, and on the night a well-known local businessman was chosen to be the recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award. So what's about to follow, I think, is just a remarkable story. I invited him back over because in his acceptance speech, which he hadn't written down, he really had the room eaten out of his hand. We were enthralled listening to stories of just somebody who getting up, a bit of hard graft, taking a chance, trusting people, taking support when he needed it, and developing a fantastic business, one that I'd say all of you have driven past or been in at some point over the past couple of years. The interesting part of this story is at times it talks about the role that soldiers played, because soldiers doing DIY as a bit of an ixer back in the day really helped propel his first store and really gave him a sense and a feeling that, this business can grow and it's going to have a very stable base beginning in Athlone. But the story actually begins, his story begins on an island in Lough Ree of all places. Would you please welcome to Taking Care of Business, Michael Ganly. Michael, you were originally grown up on an island in Lough Ree.
We were running, I suppose, I started life off in an island called Inchturk. It's right in the middle of Lough Ree. We stayed there, the family stayed there till the age of 4. I was 4 when I left the island. There was actually a schoolhouse on the island beside it, on Inchmore, and it had closed a couple of years before that. So obviously I had to be educated, my brother had to be educated as well, so we were lucky we got a council house in Athlone and Garrycastle. And for my parents, they had to be moving from an island on Lough Ree over to Athlone and Garrycastle. There had definitely to be a culture shock at the time,
Have you any memories of it? I know you were only 4.
To be honest with you, I had a lot of memories, we'll say, when I was 5 and 6 and 7 going back, because even after my dad had left the island, every opportunity he got, he had to go back. There was still people living on the island, and I remember those days, There were, I suppose, it was a different culture. You're up in the middle of Lough Ree. You can only imagine being up in the middle of Lough Ree tonight.
Yeah.
But they were fishermen, they lived for meals. They fished for trout and they fished for pike, and they made a living out of it. And there was 6 families on Inchturk at that stage. But unfortunately, I think the last of them left around 1979.
Yeah, so still not terribly far back, but the end, certainly the end of an era. It's really. It's a really interesting point. You don't hear of too many people being a native of an island, particularly one in Loughrea.
No.
Gary Castle became home as well. Tell us about yourself growing up as well. I know your first business began in 1989. What did you do in the intervening years?
Well, look, I suppose we landed in Athlone. We landed on our feet in Athlone, because Athlone, apart from coming off an island, a wonderful little community. We were about 3 miles from Athlone at the time, and it was like going into a new family, not necessarily a new neighbourhood. As people lived in those days, we all lived off one another. We helped one another with the hay. We cut turf with one another. We dug gardens, and we did whatever we had to do. Lovely little knit community there. I went to school. I'm lucky. My mother is still alive. She's over in living in Athlone, and even to this day, she's been looked after by the people of Athlone. Wonderful people still around there. But I moved on then to Cornamady School. Moved from Cornamady School then into the Marist in Athlone. I suppose Cornamady School, there was a great teacher down there, Jerry Brady, at the time. I had huge respect for him. Similarly, I had massive respect for a brother, Philip, in the Marist. A lot of people around Athlone would have remembered brother Philip. He was a fantastic mathematician. So one thing that I gained out of the Marist anyway was I knew how to add and subtract. It was fierce important.
And that was going to come in useful as well.
That's right, yeah.
What was your first foray and then into actual work like? Because you probably started young enough probably always tricking around and helping somebody anyway from a young age.
Well, look, I suppose when I was going to the Marist at the time, I needed a few pounds, and I happened to get a part-time job in the Royal Hotel in Athlone. And there was a Mary Hoy there at the time, Mrs. Hoy, as we called her at the time, and she was a wonderful woman. And that was the first real half-decent job I had at the time. Moved on from there, I suppose. I moved out of the Marist then, spent about 12 months in the AIT in Athlone, and needless to say, we were fairly poor at the time, so you were always looking for an opportunity to get money or get a job. There was National Manpower existed at the time in Costume Place in Athlone. It was a centre where people went in looking for jobs, and I went into National Manpower, looked for a job, and lo and behold, within a few days, I had a job in Athlone Hardware got. And that started my career to this date.
That was a go. But still, to take it from there, were you long there before you started getting the itch and saying, I can do this myself?
Oh, I was there a long time. In fact, I was telling the people on the night, my first job, funny enough, was taken. I'll never forget it. There was a massive big box of envelopes in the corner of an office, and I was told to take the stamps off the envelopes. Now, that's how poor everything was at the time. But look I refer to Athlone Hardware as nearly the Harvard of hardwares, if you could call it that. You learnt everything. Everything was written at that time. Invoices were written, as you know, quotations were written, everything was written down. So you had to spell everything. You had to you had to know the price of most of the stuff. So it was an intense education. I managed to move on in Athlone Hardware, from kind of starting off in the office, moving out onto the counter, gradually moving up the line, and towards the end of my tenure in Athlone Hardware, I became manager. Unfortunately, great man there, Seamus Ruddy. I looked up to him as a father at the time. The elderly people would have remembered, a lovely man. He died young, and I ran the hardware then for another couple of years after that, until it was taken over, or there was a company came in to take it over. And that kind of, when you're starting, it's a very precarious position when you're taking over a company. Everything comes down to one thing called a stock take, and the value of stock and everything else. Things just didn't work out that time right. And the company that were to take it over, they left and another company came in. But I couldn't do a deal with either company, so I decided to move out on my own. It was a hard decision to make at the time. But I had a lot of people around me that, I look back in life and I mean this, and I said it on the night, I've been blessed with good health and good luck, and I suppose being in the right place at the right time and having the right people around you when you need them most. And I had the right people around me when I needed them most at that stage. I had a number of people that encouraged me to go out on my own. There was one chap there in Lambert and Ulster at the time, I'll never forget him, Tom Rogers, the late Tom Rogers, lovely man. And Tom was always encouraging me, go out on your own, you can do it. I says, Tom, I haven't a pot to piss in, I said. well, look at, he said, Michael, if you ever get there, give us a shout. And when I got there, I gave him a shout. I got a quotation for a second-hand car, and I got a quotation for an extension to the back of the house. There is still an extension. There isn't an extension to the back of the house to this date. But anyway, I got me few pound out of Tom, and I got a help obviously from a couple of other people. There was a used garage not too far from Athlone Hardware at the back of the military barracks, and I'd been lying there for years. And I often felt if I'm ever going on my own, it's a perfect place for me. And lo and behold, I met the landlord, and it had been there for years. And sure, I was, a man from heaven coming to him. And he helped me. Jim Hickey gave me great help. And he said, Michael, I'll put it together for you. And we'll get it going. And we'll see how it goes for you. And look, we'll be easy on you.
Yeah, but still, a big risk for somebody, going, like, getting a premises is one thing, borrowing a bit of money, but to then start stocking it. But it turned out to be a potential, or a little gold mine, really, because of its location. And this is where the soldiers come into it.
And that's right, because remember, going back to those years, Athlone was a terrible place for traffic. Athlone, don't go near Athlone. It was very bad. So people that would know Athlone at the time, most of the soldiers in the army barracks at the time, and there was well over 1,000 soldiers in Custom barracks. They used to come into the barracks on the accommodation road, which is beside the river, and they'd leave on the accommodation road. That was but he decided anyways, in his wisdom, I'm going to try and relieve some of the traffic in Athlone. I'd bring everyone in on the accommodation road, and I'd bring them out on the magazine road. And lo and behold, they were coming out right in front of our premises. And, all those guys at the time, and there was a lot of them in it, they had to supplement their wages. They were working hard, they were working in the evenings, and they were big in DIY enthusiast, I have to say that. And as I said, it was like opening a sweet shop in front of a creche. It was unbelievably busy. Yeah,
but also a client base or a customer base that you knew where they hung out most of the week. You could nearly see them across the road as well.
Yeah.
That was really nearly that first, call it a bit of luck, the opportune moment, but it really worked for you as well. That gave you that kind of foothold then to really start growing the business.
Yeah, well, look, we outgrew that place there fairly quick because it wasn't while the location was fantastic, but if you know the location, there was a bridge. It's between Connacht Street and a terrible bridge at the end of the road there, and trying to get lorries in and lorries out and everything else, we outgrew it, and I had to go looking for a new site, and that happened around 1993. I had to go looking, and I did a fair bit of searching around town, and we came across this site on the edge of Athlone on the Roscommon Road. Yeah.
And an interesting time in Ireland, early 90s, you're into kind of Celtic Tiger time, big demand for building supplies, certainly.
That's right, yeah. The site was a bog, a glorified bog, and we discovered that when we started building on it. Believe me, we did. If anyone realises the price of piles when you start piling a site like that. But it was well located, it was on the edge of town. Not much happening out there at that stage. And I did a deal with another gentleman. I've been lucky to meet lovely guys, and we did a deal for the site. And do you know what? Another bit of luck. As I said, the ink wasn't, it hadn't dried on the contract when I got a phone call from the council and suggesting that they'd be looking at taking a bit of ground off me there to facilitate a roundabout. And of course, lo and behold, I said to your man, come on quick, don't, hurry up. So that's how the roundabout came about. And we gave them about 3/4 of an acre there, and they established a roundabout. Yeah. Another stroke of luck. And that roundabout was facilitating, obviously, the new bypass on Athlone, which created...
Yeah, and the amount of traffic that still goes through it there. I mean,
that's right,
everybody drives up if you're coming off the motorway, right in front of your place, and go from there. The site itself, did you expand the footprint of the site then?
We did, yeah. We look at... that was about... We opened up our store there in 1994. And now you're talking about Celtic Tiger. The Tiger started to roar, and really roar. And it was a case at that stage of you couldn't get stuff in quick enough to get it out. It was a kind of a crazy time, to be honest with you. And that kept going for a number of years, and we outgrew that site, believe it or not. We had a site there at the time of about 5 acres it was. And we said, look, so we won't be able to manage on this site, it's too small. So another site became available beside us, and we bought that, and it brought the whole footprint up to about 8.5 acres. And we knocked what we had. We built the store we have at the moment, and we built this retail shop we have at the moment. Now, needless to say, we had to borrow a lot of money to do that. But the money was there to be borrowed at the time. I remember those days when you looked for a loan, you were, instead of ringing the bank to see when were they giving it to you, they were ringing you to see when you were drawing it down.
Yeah, when did you want it?
When did you want it? Yeah.
Of course, that boom didn't last. Did it affect you?
Oh God, it did, yeah. Because another thing, we borrowed in, we were doing a lot of business at the time in Longford. That was good ground for me at the time, and we decided we'd move into Longford. And we bought a premises over there, an old factory unit. Borrowed again, more money, and got in there in 2007, the end of 2007, yeah. Needless to say, the bubble burst around 2008. I think Lehman Brothers went around that stairs towards the end of 2008. And the banks then in this country ran out of money, as you know. They were tough times. Our turnover, I say, dropped by about 60%.
Wow. Did you find, was that a sudden, or I know for a lot of construction, particularly in the supply side, things kind of just came to a grind and halted, but it took 3, 4, maybe 5 years. Did you notice it a sudden hit, or was it over time?
A lot of it came, we'll say, in the first 12 months. The business started to fall off. Another major problem at the time was a thing called bad debt. There was a lot of builders, a lot of customers, a lot of people in trouble with the banks. And that was a big, apart from the drop off in turnover, you were losing money as well, writing stuff off for bad debts and stuff like that. There were horrible times, terrible times. There were terrible times for the company. There were also terrible times for the people themselves that owed you money, and in some cases simply couldn't pay you.
True, yeah. It's often part of it we don't think of as well. Things obviously turned a corner because not only has it got Longford, they also opened up a branch in Mount Bellew in East Galway as well. We'll touch on that with Michael after this quick break.
Taking care of business with thanks to the local enterprise offices of Laois, Offaly and Westmeath. Find us on localenterprise.ie and let's talk business.
My guest in studio is Michael Ganly, the founder of Ganly's Harder in Athlone, Longford and of course Mount Bellew in Galway too. And before the break, Michael was talking about bringing the company through the Celtic Tiger and then the bust that happened. But what you do know is they're still there, they're still going stronger than ever. Michael, you spoke though, and you mentioned about community support, people, and on the night when you got your Lifetime Achievement Award, you spoke about employees, your family, just like the importance of having a support network around you as an entrepreneur like you are.
Well, look, absolutely, your team around you is very important. It's important to have everyone going in the one direction. You try and indoctrinate a kind of a culture within your organisation as well. And that culture is predominantly centred around customer service. I mean, I tell every person coming into the place, any member of staff that starts with me, the first thing they're told is the most important person coming in the front door is not Michael Ganly, it's the customer. If there's no customer, there's no Michael Ganly, there's no staff. And you know, I think all our staff, they get that. And
has it changed much over the years how you treat customers? You know, you factor in the digital side. You have an extensive online shop. You know, some people are gone very much. They like texts or emails. You know, has that changed much since you started out?
No, I think people are still people, and people want to meet people. They want to greet people. They want to meet someone in a store that kind of pushes them into buying something, gives them a bit of confidence that what they're buying is the right product to buy. I think there's always going to be a place, particularly in our industry anyway, for people. And believe it or not, all our staff, they enjoy their jobs on a daily basis because of the interaction they have with customers. There's no 2 days in our place the same. It's unbelievable, you know. Yeah. And for any young aspiring people wanting to move on in life, it's a wonderful place to work. Actually, any hardware is a wonderful place to work.
Yeah, well, you'd certainly learn a work ethic. You'd learn that interacting with different people, you know, vast range of products. I mean, it would stand to anybody to work in an industry like that too. But it keeps going, and people might have heard there during the break, actually, we were having a good laugh because an ad for Ganly's Hardware came on there. And it's specifically looking at Black Friday, as it's called, coming up this Friday. You've turned that on its head and you've gone with Bright Friday. Tell us about that.
Yeah, look, we've been looking to try and do stuff for years on Black Friday, come up with new ideas and everything else. Black Friday never appealed to me. Black is a dour old colour. I never liked it anyway. But we said, look, we turn it up on its head and we'll do something different. And this year we've decided to run Black Friday for Crumlin Children's Hospital. We're going to give all the proceeds of the day in the across the 3 stores. Sorry, all the profits across the 3 stores to Crumlin. And we're getting a bit of help and support from our suppliers as well. So hopefully Friday evening we'll have a good chunk of money to send up to Dublin.
I think, and you've a personal connection with that too.
I have. Look, we've been very well looked after there as a family. A couple of grandchildren in Crumlin over the years, and they've got wonderful help and wonderful support and wonderful treatment up there from wonderful people. Absolutely, yeah.
And that's a fantastic initiative. Yeah. Michael, our time is nearly out. I could talk to you for an hour or two. You're not retiring yet?
No, I'm not retiring. Look, I have my family with me in the business. Brian and Michelle. They're two. My Brian is in. Both of them are in Athlone. They're doing a fantastic job. They love the business. I think my wife Sheila, who's been a wonderful support for me down through the years, she'd shoot me if I went home. Absolutely, she's been there all through everything, helping me and pulling me on and shoving me and whatever. And I enjoy doing what I'm doing as well. Yeah.
It didn't take much of a show from her though to get you up on the stage to pick up your Lifetime Achievement Award. That was a great moment.
It was a great moment. Look, it was a great moment for me, a great moment for my family, and a great moment for the staff as well. Because that award I got, I just want to dedicate it genuinely to the people, all the people that have helped me on the journey. And it was a journey through life to get there. And those people include all my customers as well. And one of the reasons I wanted to come over here this evening in particular, I know we're Athlone based, but the support we have got right across the Midlands down through the years has been absolutely phenomenal. And especially, this general area over here, we've got serious support altogether, yeah.
Well, look, it's thoroughly deserved and thoroughly earned as well. And I mean, people, the name Ganly is synonymous with business, with retail, with hardware right around the Midlands, and through all the work you do, both in the community, through everything else as well. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you. Thank you for making the trip over. Yeah. Go for Michael, you've about a minute there.
Okay, I want to thank the Chamber, obviously, Athlone Chamber of Commerce, a wonderful award. I'm so chuffed to have be coming in here behind all the other guys, recipients of this award in the past, but definitely to Tommy Hogan and Regina Bushell. Thanks very much. I want to say thank you very much to them and for their team and for a most wonderful night as well.
Absolutely. Well, I couldn't agree with you more, and 2 fantastic people as well to have at the helm. Michael Ganly, it's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to having you back in about a decade when you pick up another award like that anyway. Keep her lit, as they say, and all the very best. Thanks Michael.
Ronan. Thank you very much.
So there you go. Isn't it lovely just to kind of get some insights there from a man whose life, would you believe, started on an island in the middle of Lough Ree. Great story, but a fantastic business. And I said myself, they're synonymous with business and hardware and that across the Midlands, and a great supporter of his local community too. That's it for me for this evening. Hopefully you found this evening's show useful, particularly around the auto enrolment and pensions. I'd say a lot of you have notebooks out now this evening and are starting to scratch and write a few notes and hopefully try and get ahead of things there as best you can. Thanks to Colin, Donnery and Breda Colgan for their insights there, and to Jackie Carroll earlier from Laois Chamber Alliance. Joe Cooney's here next. I'll talk to you all next Tuesday.